Well, hello everybody. How you doing? Dave Fennoy here. Another Ask Dave Fennoy Anything on this Wednesday, the 28th of the month. Where does time go? It just flies, whether you're having a good time or not. A couple little business here. If you are interested in voiceover lessons with me, private coaching, you can visit davefennoy.com. And all of these Ask Dave Fennoy's Anythings live on my YouTube channel, which is Dave Fennoy VoiceOver Training. Hope you told your friends about it. Got a great guest this evening, and Christi Bowen. I didn't assign you here. Let me assign you. There you go. You're guest one. Boom, and there you are. How are you?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing wonderful, and you sound great. Wow, that really sounds. You are in your booth.
Yes, I am.
Okay. Well, let me introduce you to the world as I know you. I first met you. You were doing a workshop at VO Atlanta several years ago. I forget exactly which year that was. But you and Carrie Olson were talking about narration and e-learning and how to find clients and how to count words. I had never encountered word counting as a way of billing. And some of the things that you pointed out, I probably wouldn't have thought of if I were doing that kind of work. Like, how do you count up numbers? Like 1975 is not one word. It's 19 and 75, so it's two words. And what's an average somebody might be being paid per word?
Well, for e-learning, and that's mostly what we were talking about in the e-learning world, it starts around 25 cents a word and up, depending on how technical or heavy medical it is. It can go up to 45 cents a word, sometimes even more. But but it's kind of a tiered level of doing things. So the more words you get up to 100,000 words or more, you kind of drop down to maybe, I don't know, 17, 18 cents to 20 cents a word, something like that.
When they're buying in bulk.
Yes, when they're buying in bulk, the price goes down a little.
Well, listen, I didn't mean to jump in right. That's kind of like jumping right in the middle of who knows what. Hey, how much do you charge per word? But so you've been doing this 25 plus years, and I don't run into a lot of people who have been doing this as long as I have, but you're getting close. And tell me your start. How did you get going in voiceover? And where does your voiceover career live?
I started in radio in college, like a lot of people, but it wasn't college radio. We had a 100,000 watt commercial FM station. It was an AOR format, and I didn't like being a DJ. I thought I was going to like being a DJ. It really wasn't my thing. I liked working in the production department. I liked writing and producing and voicing the scripts and the commercials. That's what I loved. I fell in love with it and decided, this is kind of what I want to do. I mean, I had gone to college, to get a degree in broadcasting and, film production anyway. And I knew that's what I wanted to do. I wanted to know how they made commercials. I wanted to know, how do you do film production and such. So I did the radio for a long time, for 2.5, 3 years. To me, it felt like forever, like a long time. I know many people have done it for 20, 30 years, but to me, that felt like forever. Then I graduated college. I worked at the radio station for about, 6 to 8 months, and then left there for a job in Nashville, which is where I currently live, in Nashville, Tennessee. And I got into the other side of it. I added the video component to creating commercials. So I worked at a cable company, and we still wrote and produced. And, I voiced a lot of the local television spots. So I just added the video aspect, not just the audio. So did that for a number of years, would randomly do voiceover here and there, kind of got away from it for a little while. So I worked on a couple of Hollywood features and, didn't really get a chance to do much voiceover work while that was going on, because pretty much didn't get to do anything but that, because when you work on a feature, you're focused. And then I came back to Nashville and worked for a company that had a contract with the government. We produced public service announcements for the military overseas, and we both did radio and television spots. Those were part of a large DoD contract for Armed Forces Radio and Television Service. So I got used to working, with voice actors through that, although we had an audio producer per se, and he, basically did most of the casting and most of the writing for the radio spots, and he helped us TV producers with the television voiceovers. But I would work with him and, would sit in on some of the sessions, and a lot of times he'd pull me in to do some of the jobs, which is kind of what made me want to get back into it. Did
Mm-hmm.
that for about maybe 5, 6 years, and then as our contract was ending, we had 3 other producers on staff, and I knew all of us hitting the market in Nashville, which is not that big, was gonna be a problem, and I decided, I'm kind of enjoying this voiceover thing, doing it randomly, and I thought, "Well, that's what I really need to do. That's where I wanna put my heart and soul into that," and I did, and I remember doing an audition. I did 3 auditions, on one of the pay-to-play sites in my office at my job, and I booked the 3rd one I ever did. I had just launched my website, had my demos, everything was up there, and I'm just, sitting at my desk one day, and I'm like, "Hey, these auditions are coming in. Let me try a couple of these." And I tried one, and the very first job was for L'Oreal. It was an internal training, for a new product they were launching,
Mm-hmm.
and I booked it, and it was great. It was a lot of fun, and that just it took off from there, and I've loved it ever since. But I do mostly, to answer the other part of your question, I do a lot of corporate narration, a lot of, e-learning, local TV and radio commercials, lots of phone systems. And now lately, I've been doing a lot of political television, political spots, which I absolutely love. I know a lot of people don't, but I love them. And automotive. I love
Ah,
automotive too.
okay.
Yeah.
So you've
Yeah.
probably done a little work with Cliff.
Oh yes, he did my demo, and I love my demo. I
Fantastic.
loved working with Cliff.
He's agreed to come on. I just haven't figured out exactly when we're going to get him on. Hey, you've already got a question here
Oh, great.
from
Okay.
Isabella Tugman. Christi, where do you think the best place to find and connect with e-learning clients? Where do you think is the best place?
I know the best place, and it's called LinkedIn.
Ah,
Yeah, LinkedIn, and also your own direct marketing, to the companies that are there. Another good place is being where they are, which is, there's several organizations. The Association of Talent Development, or ATD,
mm-hmm.
is one of the biggest. It's an international organization. They have a huge conference every year. There's also Learning
Now wait a minute.
Solutions.
Say that again, because I know people are
Yeah,
taking notes. The
absolutely. It's called Association of Talent Development, or ATD.
Okay.
And ATD has a very large conference every year, and they have a vendor expo. They have lots of training courses and that kind of thing. That's a decent place to kind of find out who's doing what. But LinkedIn is a great place because they have a lot of groups associated to that. They a lot of instructional designers who are the people who are creating it, and most of the time the people that are hiring e-learning people. They like Twitter a lot.
Instructional designers.
Yes.
So now let me ask you, how do you contact people on LinkedIn? You don't just go, oh, well, let's see, they're doing that. Hi, I'm Christi. Can you hire me? What are the kinds of things? How do you create that relationship?
It's a long game, first of all. Know that. They don't like to be sold to right off the bat. So it's very much a long game in the fact that you have to connect with them, have conversations with them. If you're having an interesting conversation with them, they will most likely check out your profile and check out your website. And at that point, that's when they're either going to be interested or they're not. Right off the bat, don't jump in and just say, "Hey, if you need me, here I am, and here's my information." You kind of have to give it a little time. They don't really like you to just jump right in with the sell. They want you to be interested in who they are. If you find somebody on LinkedIn, because you can find out instructional designer or learning developer, e-learning developer. All of these are keywords that you can search because those are some of their titles. And sometimes it's a program manager or a project manager, but most of the time it's an instructional developer, or learning and development is another big thing, title. And they like you to share content with them because they're constant learners. So it's good to share content with them of things
When
that you
you
might
say
find
share
interesting.
content with him, what do you mean?
Just tips and tricks or tidbits, or if you see something interesting, or asking, or just even asking them questions, showing interest in what they're interested in, and showing interest in learning and how it's changing, or learning and what, practical tips and tricks on how they're doing it, or just taking any kind of interest in the idea of teaching adults how to learn,
Well,
mostly adults.
so
Could be children.
do you spend time when you're not working, looking up those kinds of things, finding out those kinds of things? What are the newest theories in teaching and adult learning?
Sometimes, there's a lot of newsletters you can get on. And, a lot of times the companies that I've connected with will send out, newsletter emails and that kind of thing. And I try to read all of those just to kind of find out what's going on. And, sometimes I'll say, hey, did you read the latest article in blah, 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 blah. I found it really interesting. What do you think about, I'll come up with a question. I haven't done it as much focused lately as I should, because I've had other things going on, mainly VO Atlanta. But, but yeah, that is something that I try to do. I try to keep up with that stuff. I try to read what's happening, and I follow a lot of people on LinkedIn. And so I'm seeing their conversations. And a lot of times I'll just chime in on their conversations in a very not spammy way.
Yeah.
And most of the time it's just, I'll ask a question because I'm very curious about, okay, they've said this. What do you think about that?
Ah,
And
and you know what
my
that
title, it shows in my title who I am and what I do, so it's not a mystery. They're gonna look at it and go, she's either angling for a job, or they'll go, that's an interesting perspective from somebody on that side of
yeah.
the business.
I tell people all the time right here, and students of mine in private, that just the kind of thing you're talking about, you don't get in touch with somebody, hi, I need a job, hire me. You develop a relationship of some kind. And what you're talking about is very organic, and it is exactly the kind of thing to do. And I like what you said right in the beginning. It's not a quick thing; it's a long game. You're planting seeds, and you want these trees and bushes and flowers to grow.
Yeah,
Yeah, nicely
absolutely.
done. Now
Well,
we're gonna talk about VO Atlanta in a little bit.
okay.
But I ask everybody about their studio. Tell me about your studio.
Okay. Right now I'm in a whisper room isolation booth. It's just a single wall, and it's not one of the larger ones, but I do live in Nashville, home of every, musician you could think of. So it was not hard to find one on Craigslist. So found one on Craigslist, and, it was a great deal. And, it's been moved a couple of times, but it's been great for me. I have a Roswell Pro Audio RAVO mic, which is what you see here. And that was recommended to me by my dear friend Jordan Reynolds. He did a mic shootout at one of the WovoCons. I believe it was WovoCon 3.
Mm-hmm.
And, there are lots of different mics there, and I was testing several of them out. And he came up to me, I guess maybe a day or two later, and said, hey, Christi, just want to let you know, out of all the people that tried it, I was listening to your voice on that mic, and it was really good. I really liked how it sounded. And this is at the time, I believe he was still living in Denver. And I was in Denver for, coincidentally, an ATD conference, because they had their annual conference in Denver one year. And I had a couple of auditions and jobs to do. And Laurel Thomas and I went out to his studio, and we were recording some stuff. And he had this mic as well, because he helped develop it with the guys at Roswell. And I did my job and audition on it. And, he's like, man, that's just a really great mic for your voice. And I thought, okay, well, I'm kind of in the market for a new mic anyway. And I purchased it. And I remember the day after I sent some audio to a client I'd had for a while with my old mic, I warned them. I said, hey, I've got a new mic. Let me know if you like this. And if you don't, I'll switch back to the other one. And I sent it to him, and he's like, what did you do? I know you said you got a new mic, but my gosh, what else did you do? Because this is phenomenal compared to what you had.
Wow.
So I
What
didn't do anything but get a new mic.
What were you using
So,
before?
a Neumann TLM 103.
What? It
Yep.
is one of the best and most popular mics in the world.
Yep.
But for your voice,
Yeah.
This one beat it
This
out.
one.
What's your interface?
Well, at the time, I was using a Scarlett 2i2. I now have a Sound Devices USB Pre 2, which is a
Okay.
really nice interface.
I have never heard of that interface. I know everybody, most people I know now are using the Apollo, uh,
Hmm.
but that sounds like a good one. Say that one more time because I know somebody
Yeah.
is taking a note.
Yeah, it's Sound Devices, which is the name of the company, and it's a USB Pre 2. Now, it's
Okay.
not cheap. It's like $900. So,
Okay.
but one of the things about it that's really good is it has a really good limiter kind of thing on it. So, since I do a lot of automotive spots, and they tend to be a lot more up here
Yeah.
and a little bit louder. And then, of course, I also will get hired to do a lot of healthcare work, which is just a lot calmer and a lot closer. I hardly ever touch my gain. I just don't need to because
Because the
this
limiter is
interface
so good.
helps control all that. And it's just a fantastic interface.
Well,
So.
fantastic.
Yeah,
Now,
I use Twisted Wave to edit with.
yeah.
I'm a Mac girl, and I have Twisted Wave, and so it's simple, easy. I don't need more than that. It works for me.
I have heralded the wonders of Twisted Wave for years. I have
Yeah.
Pro Tools. I used Pro Tools for years, but Pro Tools can be a little finicky. I'm not sure I want to play with that computer or that setup, and I don't feel like working today. Uh, whereas Twisted Wave is designed for us as voiceover
Hmm.
people. The price, I haven't bought one in years, but I think it's still about $70.
Yeah.
And then if you want it for your iPhone or your iPad, it's $10. And it just works for us.
Yeah.
You can do most of the kinds of limiting and post production work with it. It's very easy to edit, easy to set up, and once again, designed for voiceover. So,
Hmm.
especially if you're a Mac person,
Yes.
not a bad way to go. At least have it as one of your choices. Once again, if you've got questions for Christi, I suggest you get on and ask. I talk about the kind of work you do. Now, you also do commercials, but
Hmm.
I've broken up voiceover work into two categories. One, a high profile, and the other low profile. Not that one is better than the other. It's just if you're doing high profile work, people are hearing you on television, on the radio, and video games, and cartoons, and movies, and whatnot. But I actually believe most of the work in voiceover is the not high profile work, which is the work you're doing. You do
Hmm.
some high profile work as well, but the narration that you do, the e-learning that you do, and the people I know who do that, they tell me that the money spends just as well as the money from the high profile work.
Yes, it
Wow,
does. It's
fantastic.
wonderful.
Fantastic. Well, let's switch things up here. Let's talk about VO Atlanta. Now,
Oh.
you volunteered to be a part of this thing, and when I spoke with you a little earlier, I mentioned that I had read someplace that VO Atlanta had the most Zoom hours of, especially any voiceover convention, ever.
Hmm. 300 over 370,000 hours of Zoom
Over the course of that week.
over the course of 7 days. Yes.
Now, how problematic was that?
Honestly, very little. I mean, the first day, well, I guess I should say the second day technically, because Monday we had the kickoff, which
Hmm.
was in webinar format with Gerald, and he had, his special guests and everything. And that was mainly in webinar format. So people weren't on the screen as much. But starting Tuesday, when we had classes with people and coming in and out, we had multiple things going on at once. We had X sessions, which are 3-hour specialty workshops. They
I
began at
remember I
8:30.
taught a couple of them.
Yes, absolutely. So we had they started at 8:30 a.m. Eastern time, And most of the people who were teaching those were the people who were in Europe, the teachers that are
Oh, yeah.
located in Europe, because to them it was late afternoon, early evening, and all of the folks on the West Coast were still snug in their beds. So we had the European contingent teach the early morning sessions. But so we started those off, and then there was a break. Not much of one, but a little bit of a break. And then Gerald kicked off like he did every day at noon Eastern time. He had his kind of welcome to the conference, and we had a 20-minute warm up session with a group of people who'd pre recorded most of their sessions from VASTA, which is an organization that deals with vocal, speech teachers, and, a professional organization for people who work in the vocal and speech, area. And we discovered very quickly that you had to be out of one session to start the next. And in the very first session we had at 1 o'clock Eastern, they were still going, and there were lots of people in what we called the waiting room, kind of hanging out, talking, because they were asking questions. And we couldn't start the next session at 2 o'clock because the 1 o'clock one was still open. So it was like, oh, wait. Okay, now we know what the problem is. And so we had to end all the sessions. And subsequently from that, every time we had a session, we would tell everybody, look, we have to end on time and we have to close out the session. So that's what we did.
I was a victim of that.
Yeah.
My very first session, I think it was only an hour long. It was an hour long. And I'm right in the middle. There was so much information I was trying to get out in this 1 hour. And the hour was actually 50 minutes, kind of like coaching sessions are. And I thought, oh, well, I can just, nobody will mind. I'll just go an extra 5 minutes. And right in mid-sentence, gone.
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, well.
So we fixed that night. We got together and powwowed and figured out what we could do. And we decided that, one of the ways that Gerald had it set up with Zoom, and with the conference client that we were using, to host the conference, we decided we'd open up another channel that would be strictly, so we would alternate. So it's like we'll use, channel 1 for the first sessions, channel 2 for the second sessions, and that way we would hopscotch back and forth. So as things came up, if everyone did run a little long, it wouldn't affect the next sessions. So we just made a little adjustment. I like to call it, we had a few speed bumps on Tuesday because we just slowed down a little bit, but we kept moving forward. We had
Kept
that
moving
forward
forward.
momentum. We just had to pause for a moment, but it went really, really well. The one thing that was different that very first day too, everybody came into the big giant lobby. We equated it to being in the lobby of the hotel. There's that big, huge open area, and then off of that were all the different breakout rooms. Well, it was the same thing with Zoom. Everybody came into the main lobby, and we had breakout rooms that were labeled with the session names, so everyone would know where to go. And I did a couple of tutorials. Gerald did a tutorial, and by video we posted in the Facebook groups and out on emails, and let everyone know, okay, click this button, a drop-down list comes, put yourself in here, here's how to join it, and go off. Go off about your business, and you pop into that room. And then by the second day, everybody knew exactly what to do. We always had an ambassador or two in the lobby saying, hey, for people who didn't join the first day and didn't know it, maybe they were working, they couldn't join, and maybe by Thursday they were like, okay, now I'm going to do VO Atlanta. And they came in, they're like, oh, am I here? What's going on? Where's the teacher? And they're like, well, you're in the lobby.
That first day, on my first day, I remember I called you because, how do I get in this room? I'm not sure. And you very much like Gerald were very calm and hooked me up. The next thing I knew, I was right where I needed to be, and the people in my group were there as well. VO Atlanta has become one of the biggest voiceover conferences of all of them. I remember when he first started, and we have like 500-600 people who were traveling from around the world. I saw the map today that he posted. There were people from Australia, people from Africa, people from Europe, of course, United States, Canada, Central and South America. It's amazing to me how small the world is in this voiceover world now, and how we can get that many people involved, because there's, a Spanish-speaking contingent. There
Mm-hmm.
is the Audiobook Academy. It
Yep.
seems like all his bases are covered. And I can't wait to get back to hopefully this next year where we're all in person at the hotel and you can see people and shake their hand and hug them. Uh, but I think the world has changed quite a bit. I
Mm-hmm.
still want to go to VO Atlanta and other conventions. But in terms of your work and how much you've been doing on Zoom, where do you think the industry is going? Do you think we're going to be going back to studios like we once were? Or has the industry gotten used to hiring people from their home studios?
I think it's going to be a little bit of both. I think when it comes to it, if the option is the the talent just can't get to the studio for whatever reason, and now that most of us have adopted some form of good connection, whether it's Source Connect or IPTTL or whatever that works, and that the studios are comfortable with, I think that will be an option for some actors. Now, if you're in the larger cities like LA and New York and Chicago, and you can go into the studio and you're okay with that, and as time goes on, I think that's probably going to be their preferred, but I don't think you necessarily lose the job if you can't get there. If something happens, there's a pileup on the freeway, or you're not feeling the greatest, but you're feeling okay to do the job, but maybe your kid's sick and you just don't want to spread the germs to somebody else, especially now that all of us are more attuned and aware to that. Maybe that's an option to say, hey, look, now that we can do it this way, are you open to that? So I think there's room for both things to happen.
Okay.
I think, I think in some industries it's opened up in a different way. I think maybe some of the producers and some of the companies have found talent that don't live in those big major cities that they're now comfortable and happy working with, and they're not going to require them to come in to the studio, or because they can't anyway. Maybe they live in Kansas City, maybe they live in Nashville, wherever they live, and they're not in those big cities, but they don't want to lose that talent as someone to rely on. So I think they'll be happy to have them still come in the way they are coming in now, which is through whatever electronic method it is versus in person. But I also do think big things like anime and the voice dubbing and all the different things, video games like you're doing and animation will probably eventually go back to what it was once everyone feels safe doing so, because that's just it's probably better for that particular kind of work. Yes, they've adapted, and I'm sure it's going okay, but I
Yeah.
mean, I think there's still something organic about being there in person,
Well, there's something organic about it. I know with voiceover for video games, it's you're usually working by yourself, so that's not the
Mhm.
problem. It's the
Right.
dynamics
Yeah.
and the selection of hero takes. But
Mhm.
when what you're doing is from a whisper to a scream, you as the talent, now you've got to put on an engineer hat and wear it at the
Yeah.
same time as your talent hat.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's a little difficult. One of the things that's happened for me is they will have an engineer take over your computer using TeamViewer or something like it, which can be a little scary. The guy might tap into my porn or something. But you can only say that when you don't have any porn on your actual
Yeah,
computer.
exactly. Yeah.
But but that's one of the things that's happening. I have a gig out on Friday morning, and I actually have to take a COVID test on. Well, no, it's on Monday. I have to take a COVID test on Friday to do the gig on Monday. And I have a gig on Friday in a studio. Well, they don't want the test, but they're going to check my, they're going to give me, they're going to check my temperature when I come in. Of course, now I've had both my shots. I am
Yay.
vaccinated, which is very comfortable. And you had your vaccination yesterday?
Yes, I had my second shot yesterday,
What
so
what
feeling a
what'd you?
little weird today, but hanging in there.
So what'd you get? Don't say to me I'm feeling a little weird. Usually that's the kind of thing I would just jump on and there'd be a whole joke about all kinds of weirdness. But no, I'm not going to do that to
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
so which did you get? Moderna,
I got
Pfizer?
Moderna. Yeah, I
Yeah,
got
me too.
Moderna.
Me too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
had
I mean, It's been great. I mean, I will tell you, there's a voiceover friend of mine that is also a pharmacist, and she posted the other day, "Please quit saying you felt bad after your second shot because it's making a lot of people not want to come and get it." And I completely understand her point, and it's completely valid. I mean, I don't feel terrible. I mean, I know a lot of people who got really sick after it. I feel just a tad off. I can tell there's something a
Yeah.
little wrong, but I'm not feeling terrible, which is good. My arm's a little sore, but oh well, that's the price of,
I,
considering what we've gone through. Who
oh
cares that
yeah.
my arm's a little sore? Big
Yeah,
deal. Go get your
I'll take
shot.
the little sore and maybe feeling a little weird over not being able to breathe and possibly dying.
There's that, yes. Yeah.
There is that whole thing. I've got another question for you here.
Sure.
Theodore Mezzacapo, question for Christi. With e-learning and corporate narrate often being longer form than commercials and video games, what are some exercises or techniques you use to keep your voice in good condition for a particularly long session? That's a good question.
Good one. I will tell you, there's a lot of warm-ups out there. I do a lot of warm-ups. I do mostly, believe it or not, I do them in the shower, mainly because with that moist heat, in the shower, it helps open up. That's just me personally. I like that.
You know
But
what?
do
I
a
like
lot
that
of
too.
different voiceovers.
Yeah, in the shower, I just like, yes.
Yeah. And also it kind of dulls that sound. So I don't feel so weird about all these strange noises I'm making in the house. The water kind of, hides that a tad. But there's a series of exercises I do. I do a lot of tongue twisters and things. I'm very careful about caffeine. And I know some people believe that and some people don't, whatever, but it's just for me. Dairy affects me personally. I can always tell, I don't eat any kind of dairy in the morning or for lunch. I'm very careful what I eat for lunch and for dinner.
So what kinds of things are off the menu for lunch?
Anything having to do with cheese. No pizza, no cheeseburgers, no nothing like that.
So the wine and cheese for you is after hours.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
At night I can have my pizza. But most of the time just, and no, cream. I don't drink coffee anyway, but I drink tea, with lemon or honey. But, I'm very careful about staying hydrated. Lots and lots of hydration, of course. And I take breaks. I take frequent breaks. I can tell I've done this long enough. I've done enough e-learning to tell when my voice is going that I stop. And my ENT that I had and the therapy that I went through, because I did have a problem at one point. I remember Brianna telling me that I needed 50 minutes is the longest you need to talk in an hour. And then 10 minutes of complete and utter silence. And I've learned some techniques to, reset my voice, as it were.
Mm-hmm.
Just kind of hum, a little bit of humming, just
Do you do the yawn thing? Where
Sometimes I do that, yeah, and the straw phonation, and that's a big one that a lot you can look up online. It's called straw phonation. That's out there. I do that. I do a little bit of everything, and I'm constantly researching it. I will tell you, at VO Atlanta, they had all those warm-up things. I missed every one of them because I was in the middle of doing something else when those were going on. But I can't wait to go back and look at them and find out some new exercises to add to my repertoire. Because I will tell you, sometimes I get so used to doing the same thing over and over again that it's not as effective as it used to be, because I'm kind of half-heartedly doing it, and I'll switch up my exercises. I'll find something on YouTube, or I'll read something, or I'll talk to some fellow voice actors, friends, and like, so what do you do when you warm up? And I'll try each other's different things. So just to kind of keep it fresh. It's kind of like any kind of workout you do, whether it's, if you go to the gym and do the same exact exercise for 4 or 5 months in a row, after a while it stops being as effective because you kind of get used to it and you don't put as much effort into it anymore because it's not new. So I think we have to do the same things.
Yeah,
but it's very important.
I got a little comment here I've got to put up. My friend Luc de Villars in France, no cheese? Oh, I take that very personally.
Oh, believe me, I love cheese. I eat plenty of cheese at night and on the weekend, just not before recording.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah.
So what do you think the magic of VO Atlanta is?
I think it's Gerald's vision of wanting it to be about the people. Yes, the topic that everyone is talking about is voiceover, but that's not what the conference is about. The conference is about giving back and people being good humans and sharing themselves with others, making connections, whether that's speaker to attendee, attendee to other attendee, just it. And when he looks for people to present, he's looking for people that are not the kind of people that will come and do nothing but try to look for new students, if they're coaches or, just agents who will be like, I don't want to be around too many people. I'm going to go to my room after my class. He wants people that are willing to be out and about amongst everybody who's there, be willing to sit and have lunch with them, have conversations, talk to everybody, because he wants people to make connections. It's all about making connections on all levels, human level, not just voiceover level. Like, oh, I met so and so, and he's the voice of this, or she's the voice of that, and she did this, and I met so and so. Yes, that's neat and that's great. Instead, he would rather you go home with, I now have a renewed sense of purpose. I feel good because somebody told me something that made me feel good about myself. I met somebody that I didn't know from across the world, and we had a connection because we both like XYZ. It's those things that make the conference special, because he creates and fosters an atmosphere that allows that to happen. And I think that's why people like it so much. You go there and you meet friends that you make really good, deep friendships with. You may
Yeah.
only see them once a year. You may chat every now and then on, the different social medias, whatever. And maybe you recommend each other for jobs, or maybe you become accountability partners with them from afar, because, who knows what stage you're both at in the voiceover journey, but you encourage each other. That's what it's all about.
I
That's the
think
whole
I
point.
think I'm going to come back to something you just said. I think most people know what it is, but just in case, what's an accountability partner?
Yeah.
And do you have any? What have you used people to help keep you honest and moving forward?
Yes. So an accountability partner is someone, or it could be partners. You could have two, or a group, a small group of something, of people that you talk openly and freely about what your problems or your successes in the business are. It's somebody that, they're a person or a group of people that you entrust with your thoughts and feelings about where you are, when you have questions, when you have problems. And typically it's, you kind of have your cone of silence. At least most of the accountability partners I've ever had, we kind of, what we say to each other stays with each other.
Yeah.
Mainly because then that creates a system of openness and trust, and you basically hold each other accountable for things. You're like, well, you told me 3 months ago that you were going to do XYZ and you still haven't done it. Why not? What's your problem? What can I help you do to, get past that? Is there anything I can encourage you? Do you want me to call you next week and find out how you're doing? That's what an accountability partner does for you.
Yeah.
That's what you do. And I do have two ladies that we met up at a different conference, and they always kind of put groups and things together. And there were three of us. And to this day, we are very, very tight. We're very close. We used to talk every day. Then it became like a couple times a week, and then it was once a week. And lately, due to COVID and stuff, we haven't been as good as we should, and shame on us. But we do talk to each other, and we really bounce ideas off each other. We don't always agree on everything, and sometimes we'll say, "Yeah, I know you're doing that. I don't really like that idea myself. It's not for me, but if it's good for you, then I'll support you." And that's just who we are with each other.
Well,
And
one of the
makes
great
it work.
things about this business is there's no one exact route to take. There's no one
No.
exact kind of career to have. You have the option of being many things and doing many things. I know when I first came to Los Angeles, this is 1990, way back in the day, dig it. When I first came to Los Angeles, I had taken a lot of private lessons and a lot of workshops. And at one point I was, I want to keep doing this in the private lessons and the workshop, but I'm not sure I can afford right now to. And I got together with a number of other voiceover actors, a few from my agent and a few from a couple other agencies, and we would meet every couple of weeks, and we would read copy and critique each other. And that was the purpose of this voiceover workout group. But what I discovered was in that very first 10 or 15 minutes before we began reading copy, we talked about our
Mhm.
careers. We talked about the things that we wanted to do, the things that we didn't get or we got. I remember one young lady, she hadn't booked anything in months, and she felt like her uh, agent was going to drop her, which ultimately happened. But
Mm.
some of the advice she got was, you know what, start looking for a new agent now while you have an agent. And she did, and that worked. And just about the time she got dropped, somebody else was pulling her in. But I think in this business, especially early in this business, you need somebody that you can talk to that understands what you are going through, because your mama don't know, your daddy don't know, your significant other doesn't know, your friend who isn't doing this, they don't know. They don't understand what's going on with you. And especially
Right.
now that we're all in our home studios, um, it's a very it can be a very lonely business sometimes. So we need each other.
We do.
And one of the best things I like about the voiceover community is a sense of community. You meet somebody that does voiceover work and they're having some success in it, you automatically feel a kinship.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I was the co-founder of the meetup group here in Nashville called Tennessee VoiceOver Exchange. And ironically enough, Chris and I, the other co-founder, met for the very first time, even though we both live in Nashville. We met in LA at the Voice 2012 conference. We were both out there and we ran into each other and it's like, wait, you live in Nashville? I live in Nashville. So once that conference was over later, I think in September of that year, we kind of got together for coffee. We're like, we should do something. We should start a group here. I know so many people that are in this business. And we did, and it spurred itself on. And this is the eighth year. And we meet every single month. The last year and a half, it's been by Zoom, which is good because while COVID was happening, we lost our space anyway
Yeah.
because it got sold. So it's good that we're Zoom because I don't have a physical location right now, anyhow. But we're going to eventually get back there. But it's nice in this town. There are a lot of people who are wanting to, who are new. We have a lot of full time folks. A lot of full time folks from here have now moved to LA. Through some of the people that they've met and where their career has been able to take them through some of the people that we brought into the meetup group and everything else. They were allowed to kind of, meet these different coaches and get better and make, connections. And that's helped them feel good about moving on to LA and everything else. But we are still close with each other, even though they're not here anymore.
Yeah.
And it's a nice group of people to be with each other and to, kind of lift each other up and ask questions because there are constantly questions in our Facebook group asked all the time. Hey, this happened to me. Can anyone help me out? Or, hey, I'm getting a new interface. Or what does everyone suggest? Or whatever it is. It's just a place for everyone to gather and ask, but that are local to our area. Well, although we now have a whole bunch of people in Memphis and Chattanooga and everything else. So we've got people in the greater Tennessee area, which is a very large area, but it still feels more local
It's the
than some of the larger
Southeastern
groups.
voiceover commit crew, or
Yeah.
something like that.
Yeah.
You do some coaching and teaching.
Mhm.
Somebody comes to you, they want to get started in voiceover. What would be the steps you'd tell them?
Train, read, train some more, read some more. Basically read everything you can get your hands on, and there is so much amazing free content out there. One of the first things I tell everybody is go to voiceoverextra.com because they have so many amazing resources out there that are free. They have a whole newcomers section, so it's a great place to start. And it's an amazing website. But also to, don't not buy gear right away. You don't need to do that. You need to get coaching, maybe figure out what genre you're interested in. Some things might, you might have an immediate reaction of, I want to be in cartoons. I've been watching cartoons my whole life. Or, I used to be a teacher, so I think narration and e-learning would be really good for me. Whatever it is from your background or your love, that's something you should maybe think about doing. But, getting with a good coach or two when you first start, getting and constantly training, taking different classes, reading as much as you can, practicing. Those are the things that I say immediately start with, because there's so much information out there you can do if you have no budget or if you don't have as much time because you're working another full-time job. There are things you can do to further yourself along. Be thinking about who you are, what your maybe your voice qualities as you're, and listening to the feedback you're getting from your coaches. Maybe start percolating on, branding ideas and thoughts about it. Of course, you're not really going to know your full branding until you've been in it for a while, until you know what you're being hired for. Because they will tell you, listen to your clients. They will tell you, I loved your warm, comforting voice on this, or I really loved your bright, upbeat read. And the reason I came up with my branding after being in the business for 5 years,
Yeah.
it was because I had gone to a marketing seminar for our local marketing, American Marketing Association meeting. And I was just listening to what the content was that day, and it was an amazing lunch. And I was driving home, and I was driving west. Sun was in my face. And I thought, I was like, gosh, this sunshine is so bright. And I remember putting my visor down, and I went, that's it. What thing is warm and bright? Because those are the two polar opposites, kind of in voiceover. But yet those are the two things that I'm told more than anything else from my clients. I went through all their emails and all their feedback, and those were the two words that were used the most. So I
Warm and
thought,
bright.
well, okay, that's what people are hiring me for, then how can I combine them?
Yeah.
And I also have had this fascination with sunsets since I was a little girl. And I thought, okay, this is perfect. But it took 4.5, almost 5 years for me to come up with that. And I was a full-time voice actor at that point.
Yeah.
So your branding can take a while, but you can be thinking about it. You have to kind of do thinking about websites, thinking about, all that kind of stuff a little bit as you go along, as you're going. I kind of
Don't put the cart before the horse.
Right. You can't put the cart before the horse, but you can be thinking about it and coming up with things that work for you and things that you like, and listening to what your coaches are saying to you in the process of creating, of learning and getting your demos. Honestly, I kind of equate it to opening up a restaurant. I use this analogy all the time, that you can't open the doors to a restaurant if you don't have a chef, a menu, and know where your food supply is coming from. You can have a chef and you can open your doors, but where's the chef getting the food from? Where is the chef? Has he created a menu? So when people sit down at your tables, they're like, yeah, I'd like to order. I don't have anything to give you. I don't have a menu.
Well, there's no food right now, but come back next week. We'll see what we've got.
Yeah, exactly. You have to kind of thinking about everything at one time. It's a lot to think about. I will also say, take business classes. Find an organization in your town that supports small businesses, that supports SCORE, SCORE. It's an organization that is for small businesses by the government. Every town has has one in their hometown, and most of their stuff is either free or cheap. Go to SCORE.
SCORE.
SCORE, SCORE. It's an acronym, but basically what it is it's a place to go get business mentorship, find out, business loans or information about, classes about how to start a business, how to run a business. Because if you are not business savvy at all, big news flash, if you get into this business, you're running a business. You have
especially the kind of business you're running. I think for guys like me, I think for guys like me, that union agents and a lot of what you are doing for yourself is being taken care of for me. I mean, I'm paying 10 and 20% to do that, but it takes a lot of pressure off of me. Especially in the finding of the work. Auditions are coming my way. I have somebody to collect money for me and help me with my schedule and so forth and so on. You were talking about studying. Of course, I totally agree, and exploring the areas you think you want to do. One of the things I found in this business is that the industry will tell you what it wants from you.
Yeah,
you may think you're going to do A, B, C and end up doing X, Y, Z. Now, that has happened to me numerous times where, I'm doing this and this is where all my money's coming from, and I'm just going along in that, and then that kind of slows down and something else picks up.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
I've had the good luck of being able to do everything and some of everything all the time, but there's always something that has presented itself throughout the career that's more than anything else. And
Yeah,
there's a certain zen of acceptance that okay, this is what the world is giving me now. This is where
right.
my career is right now. Okay, let's go with that. And it's been a good ride the whole time, but just don't expect because you're doing this today that that's what you're going to be doing tomorrow.
Exactly.
And the more you can acquaint yourself with the various genres, you never know. Now, the only thing I say I'm
Yeah.
never going to do full time is audiobooks.
I knew where that was coming because I'm the same way. I have such amazing respect for people who do audiobooks. I've done 2 or 3 smaller ones, they were very short and they were nonfiction, but they're not that's just not the thing that makes me happy. It doesn't bring me joy within this business. But there's so many people it does, and I love that career for them. You know what makes you happy in this business, and yeah, you have to kinda do a little bit of everything, you're right, and different things will hit you at different times, and that's great, and it's so much fun to have that breadth of experience, but there will be always probably a couple of things that are very, foundational for you that you kind of build on, and every now and then those other things will kinda come your way, which is good. And sometimes I know some people who are like, "Oh, I will never do audiobooks," and then all of a sudden they do one and they're like, "Oh, I'm hooked," and that's okay. And other times people start out doing audiobooks, and then maybe they do either an e-learning or some explainer videos, or maybe they got a chance to do some crazy video game, something or other. All of a sudden, they're like, "Oh my gosh, I really love video games. I wanna do more of that," or who knows what it is, you know? So, you never close yourself off to an opportunity, but
Yeah,
I think people kinda know maybe where their strengths are, or, you can always start out somewhere. That doesn't mean that's the only
that's
path
where
you
you're going
have
to
to
end up.
take the entire career you have, you
Yeah.
know?
Got a comment here from Portia. Q. I felt guilty that I don't have my branding in order. Feel a bit better.
Yeah, don't feel guilty at all. I mean, it's nice to be thinking about, and it's nice, and your branding may change over time. It'll morph as you do, because, things will change for you depending on as you grow and change in the business. That may ch your branding will change too. I mean, think about Coca-Cola. In some ways, they've kept some of their branding the whole time, but there's many other things they've added to it. It's still Coca-Cola at heart,
Yeah.
but there are different facets of it and different
And
ways it
and be
looks.
careful when you try to brand yourself as the new Coke.
Yeah, don't do that.
Oh, I got a long letter here from Luc de Villar. Bonjour, my friend. That's sometimes the thing that scares the newbies who want to come into Voice Planet. They think because they love manga or anime, they have a voice, then they can't get jobs. But when you tell them, okay, but you will also need to create a branding for yourself and a website, get sound technical skills, love microphones, do e-learning, motion design, audiobooks, answering machine, booth, build a booth. Oh, yeah, I knew that was going to happen. It's too long. Build a booth, understand what acoustics and sound is, and oh, hello, and person has left. Well, as you were talking before, when I asked you the question about what do you tell somebody that's just getting started, when you start listing these things off, it can be like, how do I eat this elephant? And
Mhm.
it has to be a piece at a time. And I love what you
Mhm.
said about don't run out and buy a bunch of equipment. You might want to get something so you kind of get used to it. Uh, I met a fellow at VO Atlanta a number of years ago. He's an older gentleman. He had just retired and decided to do voiceover work. And he was at his first conference. He wasn't doing any work yet. He had gone out and bought a U87. He had bought like a Manly Vox box. He had bought a brand new Whisper Room. He got all the things that he thought he should have that would make his career for him. And I don't know if his career blossomed, But I remember I was aghast, and I said, "Well, I hope if this doesn't work for him, that this isn't, hasn't ruined him financially." Because
Yeah.
clearly the guy, he'd spent about $15,000-$20,000 on stuff as he was listing the equipment he got. And you want to make the money to invest in that equipment first. Build it
Mhm.
slow. Don't just try to jump out and do everything at once.
Yeah. There's so much advice out there. And, there's great advice, and there's some advice that's like, "Well, maybe you're not ready for that advice yet." And it's hard to know if you are ready, and I get that too. But, I think there are really great places. Well, of course, this is a fantastic one that you're doing, Dave. Find the people who are really excelling in this business. And, read what they say, listen to what they're saying. Doesn't mean everything's going to be right for you and your situation, but take it in, absorb it, get your sources of information from multiple places and different genres and everything else, and you'll find where you fit in based on your personal background and what resonates with you. Because there are so many coaches and teachers and people in this business who are very giving, which is what's
Yeah.
so amazing about this business, and giving of their information. And not all of it's going to be completely applicable to you and what you're doing all the time. And maybe what you hear now, maybe in a year or two, even, that light bulb might go off and you're like, I remember they said that back then. It didn't really work for me at the time, but now it is.
You, you
Just,
know,
take a little bit in and absorb it,
I think about the number of things that coaches of mine told me that didn't make sense when
Mhm,
they told me to me that I just didn't understand.
mhm,
And years later, I suddenly a bell went off, or I had
mhm.
grown slowly to a place where I was doing what they had said to do, but now it had come natural. I realized, oh, that's what they were talking about.
Yeah,
And I,
yeah.
one of the things that you're very you break things down very well. And I think that's one of the things that has made you be successful in your career, and probably makes you a good coach when you are coaching people.
Yeah, thank you.
So there are a couple other things I want to bring up here. Let's see. Jen
Yeah.
Henry, just a quick hello to Diva.
Mhm.
VOA kept you firm in my brain and heart last week. Hey,
Aw,
Jen
thank you.
Henry. Great talent in her own right. And
Oh,
Portia, once
absolutely.
again, excellent and perfect advice, warm, wise, bright advice, Christy. So
Oh, thank you.
there you go. One, let's see. Rhonda Clark, great session. Thanks so much, Dave and Christy. And yeah, we're right at the top of the hour here. Just a couple minutes.
That went
How can
fast.
how can how can Yeah, it does. The hour goes by fast. You think, well, wait, didn't we just start?
I
So
know.
if people want to get in touch with you, uh, for whatever reason, for coaching or advice, or maybe they want to hire you. Who knows? How can
Yeah.
they get in? How can you get in touch with Christi Bowen?
Through my website, but Christi is spelled Christi, Bowen, B as in boy, Owen. So it's ChristiBowen.com. There's, has my email address and everything else on there, my phone number, whatever. Prefer email versus phone, just because, if I'm
Hi,
in the,
is this
just if
Christy?
I'm in the booth and everything else, I work better off of email because I have a system for, going through emails and tagging them and getting back to people. If it's on my phone, I might forget. So I prefer email. So, there's a way to get in touch with me. You can also get in touch with me through my website and everything else. So yeah, that's the best way.
Oh, fantastic, Christi Bowen, in Nashville, Tennessee, and
Howdy.
you don't talk like that. Uh,
No, I do not. I
but
can. I can if you need me to, sugar. I can do that. Bless your heart. I got you covered.
and there it is. And there it is. Well, listen, thank you so much for being my guest. And I got you to come in here to talk about VO Atlanta, but I got you to talk about a whole lot other things. So I
Absolutely. Thank you
appreciate.
for having me. I really appreciate it.
Oh, it is my pleasure, and I will say goodbye and thank you, and talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you.
All right, Christi Bowen, ladies and gentlemen, and you never know what you're going to get when you bring on a guest. And I knew she was going to be great, but I didn't know she was going to be that great. Fantastic. Once again, Ask Dave Fennoy Anything every Wednesday, 6 p.m. Pacific. Facebook Live, unless I'm out of town, but that hasn't happened in the last year. This and other Ask Dave Fennoys will live on my YouTube channel, Dave Fennoy VoiceOver Training. And if you are interested in voiceover lessons with me, or if you'd like to get that reminder every week of VO Atlanta, of Ask Dave Fennoy Anything, or updates where I'm going to be teaching from time to time, visit davefennoy.com. And that said, go out and book something. See ya.